Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1924A, and today's date is July 23rd, 2019, and the title of the episode is The Economic Landscape is Changing, Central Bank on the Defensive. Now, before I get started, I want to talk about trading. There's never been a better time in history to trade crypto, stocks, or binary options. Trade Genius over the last 30 days has netted its traders over 40% on their money from spot-on trades. Take control of your financial future. For right now, through July for their summer specials, you can save over 50% off their bundled specials, and or use promo code SUMMER for 35% off all non-bundled items. Check out TradeGeniusAcademy.com. Tell them X22 Report sent you. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, what we're watching the entire economic landscape. It is completely changing. Think about what is happening around the world. And actually, Angela Merkel and others have said this, that nationalists are now taking the position of globalists. Look what's happening in Australia. Le Pen now is running against Macron. Most likely, with Macron, his ratings are very, very low. Le Pen will probably win. In the UK, we just had Boris Johnson. He is now the Prime Minister of the UK. And he won by 66% of the vote. And now he is the leader. He took over the position of Theresa May, who continually pushed forward the EU, the central bank's agreement. And she did this multiple times, and the people voted it down every single time. What does this tell you? It tells you that she is not working for the people. She is working for the EU, the central bank, the non-elected leaders. And Trump tweeted out the following: "Congratulations to Boris Johnson on becoming the new Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. He will be great." Now again, Boris Johnson has been promising that he is going to push the no-deal Brexit October 31st. There was a point in time where the Parliament was not in session. They decided, hey, we're going to vote, and we're going to be in session during this period of time to maybe stop or vote for Boris to push through this no-deal Brexit. Now, if Boris doesn't follow through, the people have already spoken and said, listen, you might as well just resign, because this is not what we wanted. We wanted to break off from the EU. This is why we had the referendum. Now, the EU has already come out, and they broadcasted their message to Boris Johnson. The European Union said it would not heed his election promises of renegotiating Brexit. This is coming out of the bloc's negotiator. We look forward to working constructively with Prime Minister Johnson when he takes office to facilitate the ratification of the withdrawal agreement and achieve an orderly Brexit. And they are not looking to renegotiate. They already have a deal, and this is the deal they want. Think about what the central bank, the EU, is doing right now. They're presenting the same exact deal, which continually failed. And what they're saying is, there's nothing to discuss. This is what we want, and you better do it. Now, I would think that the EU realizes that Boris, if he stands firm in what he promised, he will exit with no deal, which means the central bank, the EU, is going to try to use fear, maybe events, to try to push him in a different direction. This is something that we have to watch. Now, we know that the tariffs are not causing the global slowdown. Yes, I know the IMF, the mainstream media, they're all blaming it on Trump and the tariffs. He's the one who's causing the global slowdown. That is the only explanation for this. Well, we've been looking at this. We've been following it. We understand what has been happening in the past. And this is why we've been following this every single day. So this way, all the mainstream media outlets, the central banks, can't come out of nowhere and tell us that it's because of this one reason. That's why this is happening. And this is the reason we've been doing this. To make sure that we understand what is really going on. Now, think about what they're saying. They're saying the whole entire global slowdown is because of the tariffs. Now, we discussed this many, many times before. And if we go back in time, right after the financial crisis, the IMF has continually forecasted incredible GDP numbers. If we go back to 2011, they said the GDP numbers are going to be like 4.5%. If we go back to 2012, they're talking about 5%. If we go back to 2013, it's the same thing, these high numbers. And what they do is they say, well, we were a little off, or they don't even say that. We're just going to recalculate, and here are the real GDP numbers. Now, when you look at what has been happening with the IMF since the financial crisis, world GDP numbers have been declining. Now, in 2010, they were around 5% growth, a little bit over 5.1 or so. In 2011, they came down to 3.9. In 2012, we're looking at 3.4. In 2013, 3.3. Moved back up to 3.4. In 2014, 2015, it dropped to 3.2. And then 2016, 3.2, popped up to 3.3, and then dropped to 3.1 around 2017, 2018. But of course, their forecasts were way up there. So if you look, they've been declining since the financial crisis. Trump wasn't president in 2011, in 2012, 13, 14, 15. And actually, if you look at 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, they're around between 3.1 and 3.4%. Where are they today? The same exact area. But the trajectory is declining. And it's been declining way before Trump and the tariffs. So we know the IMF is not really being truthful about this. But think about what has happened here. Once again, they're trapped. They're trapped in this narrative. Because once the deal is made, the tariffs are removed one by one. What is the IMF going to say? Now, the IMF came out and they said, listen, we're going to recalculate the GDP numbers. They were at 3.6%. They're now 3.2%. They'll probably go a little bit lower than that. But what they're saying is that it's slowing and they're trying to blame it on tariffs. The only good news here is that while they're saying the tariffs are affecting the rest of the world, the United States, it looks like the forecast for the U.S. is a lot better. Why? Well, they cited the expectations that the Federal Reserve will cut interest rates. So cutting interest rates to the IMF is a good thing. Or is it another trap? Yes, we know that Trump needs the rates cut to keep the economy moving along. The IMF realizes that if they cut rates, the economy will continue on chugging along. It won't crash. So they're off the hook for a little while. But once he's reelected in 2020 and things change and there's no tariffs and there's trade with other countries and the rates start to move up, what is the IMF going to do at this time? What is the Fed going to do? What is the mainstream media going to do? Actually, if you really look at it and you step back, they are completely trapped. Now, because of this global slowdown, and this is how the central bank system works, it's great in the beginning because everyone feels the effect of inflation, so they think, wow, my salary went up, my home went up, this is fantastic, and the interest rates, they're at 15, 16, 17%. I love it. But at the end of the system, it is absolutely awful. People can't find jobs. Wages are declining. Inflation, there is inflation, but it's hidden. And no one's earning anything on their savings. Everything is completely opposite of what it was like when the system first came online. And what we see is jobs being lost across the globe. Nissan, they're slashing over 10,000 jobs globally, 7% of its entire workforce. Remember, the automobile industry has been decimated. And there are many, many companies worldwide that are cutting employees. This is what happens with a central bank system. Companies cannot make it in this system. The debt load is way too high. It cannot be sustained. The corporate debt load is way too high. It cannot be sustained. And everything starts to fall apart. Now, Trump and the Patriots, they know this. They've been preparing the entire system for the transition. And what are they doing? They're pushing the economy to the extreme. Why? Because they need to get all of this done before the entire system, and this is a central bank system, falls apart. And he's bringing back manufacturing, helping farmers, removing people who are dependent on the government. Actually, Trump tweeted out the following about farmers. Farmers are starting to do great again after 15 years of a downward spiral. The $16 billion China replacement money didn't exactly hurt. Now, Trump and the Dems, they have agreed on a new 2-year budget with no poison pills. Now, what is a poison pill? Poison pills, they're like policy writers. Sometimes they're known as poison pills. Often are so cravingly designed to benefit a certain special interest or indulge in an unpopular viewpoint that they would stand little chance of passing if they were given an airing on their merits. Budget bills offer the possibility of sneaking poison pill writers into law without debate. Trump tweeted out the following: I am pleased to announce that a deal has been struck with Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, and House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy on a 2-year budget and debt ceiling with no poison pills. This was a real compromise in order to give another big victory to our great military and vets. Now, like we said before, Trump and the Patriots, they are preparing for this transition. And to prepare for this transition, people cannot be dependent on the government. Think about it. When things start to go south and everything starts to collapse, and this is the central bank system, even though we have a transitional economic system waiting in the wings, this is not going to be an easy transition because there's going to be bumps along the way. Think about when we came off a stable gold standard where we had very little debt and we moved on to the petrodollar system. People couldn't get jobs. We couldn't get fuel. Other countries were hurting. It was very tough during this period for many, many people. Coming off a system where the dollar has lost, 96, 97, 98% of its value, and we have so much debt, and everything is hooked together, and the system, if one thing goes wrong, the whole system comes down. This is going to be a bumpy ride, and you can't have people dependent on the government. Because if people aren't getting their food stamps or their welfare, guess what happens? People get angry. How am I supposed to survive? So what are they doing to head this off? They're getting people off government, which actually then shrinks government. The Department of Agriculture is taking steps to cut food stamp benefits for 3 million Americans by limiting a state's ability to automatically enroll residents who also receive welfare benefits. Agricultural Secretary Sonny Perdue said the states have misused this flexibility. The new rule would limit states' ability to enroll benefits recipients earning more than 130% of the federal poverty line. It would also introduce new means testing. In most cases, this means a family of 4 would need to be earning less than $32,640 to qualify for this. And there's a reason why they're doing this. Is this to hurt people? No. This is to make people independent. This is to get people off of the government. The government was never there to help every single person. The government was put into place by our founding fathers to be an executive, to handle the affairs of the states, of the people, not to be a government which employs millions and millions of people, a government that supports millions and millions of people on welfare, on food stamps. We need to go back to the beginning. Why would the government need to do this? It always goes back to the central bank. Because in a central bank system, wealth inequality separates as time goes on. You have the very, very wealthy, the 1%, and then you have the rest of the people. And as the value of the dollar loses its value, people have to use debt and credit cards. Jobs are hard to come by. And especially what the deep state have been doing with the central bank, moving everything out of the United States. How are people supposed to live? Well, that brings us to food stamps, to welfare, and everything else. Think about it. When you start to remove all of this, what happens? People can actually survive and make a living. That's what Trump and the Patriots are trying to do. Give the control back to the people. Remember, it was taken from us. The control of you earning a living, living comfortably, having your dollar go very, very far, that was stolen from the American people. Trump and the Patriots, they're returning it to the people. And the only way to do this is to get rid of the central bank. And we know that Trump is putting certain individuals or nominating them to go onto the Federal Reserve Board. I think in the end what's going to happen is these individuals are going to completely restructure it, where we're not going to borrow this money with interest attached. We're not going to have a private corporation control what we do with our finances of the United States. Everything is about to change. The economic landscape is about to change. It's changing around the world, and it's going to continue. So get ready, be prepared for the change. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.